From PHL to Podfest, the Ray-Ban Meta glasses led the way, helping me travel blind with confidence. I'll tell you how. Stick with me.
From Studio B in Swarthmore, this is iCantCU. Now, here's David.
Hello there. Welcome to another episode of iCantCU, your window into a world where blindness doesn't dictate ability. My name is David, at David Benj on all the socials. I really do appreciate you joining me for this episode of iCantCU, and welcome inside Studio B. Still using a different camera. I hope by the next episode, the other one is up and running. Fingers are crossed. But let me tell you about my trip to Podfest in Orlando. And as much as I love the Ray-Ban Meta glasses, I was stunned at how helpful they were getting from Philadelphia International Airport, out of Orlando International Airport, through the hotel, the Renaissance at SeaWorld, and around Podfest in that hotel. And I have to tell you a funny story. I was walking through the hotel a couple of days after I got to Orlando, and I was shooting some video so I can show you some B-roll of the hotel and things like that. And I thought, I never got any video from the glasses in Philadelphia International Airport, and I wondered why. Well, here's why. I got to the airport, got through security, I found the gate. And once I found the gate, I had plenty of time. So I love before I get on a plane to have something kind of doughy. If it's not in Philadelphia, I usually look for a bagel. But in Philadelphia, there's usually a soft pretzel vendor in every terminal. So my goal, once I found the gate, was to find the soft pretzel vendor. And as I was walking through the concourse, I saw these different shops, and I walked past what I later realized was the place that I wanted, but I was looking a different way, so I thought, well, I'll check it on the way back if I don't find it beforehand. So I'm walking through the concourse looking and saying, hey, Meta, what's in front of me? Hey, Meta, what's in front of me? Now, here's the funny story. At least 4 times while I was at Philadelphia International Airport, when I said those words, hey, Meta, what's in front of me? Somebody around me said something to me. One guy said, no, I don't know where I am. I don't know where you're going, or something like that. One person said, hey, Meta, what's in front of me? It was 2 girls. They said, no, we're behind you. I said, oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm talking to my glasses, which, of course, in itself sounds ridiculous. So I am looking around the concourse, looking at these different shops, wondering, okay, does that guy have a soft pretzel? And none of them really fit the bill. And I kept walking down. Like most airports, Philadelphia International has the different terminals, B and A, B and C, and so forth. And then they're connected by this concourse. And as I'm walking through this concourse, I come across the Rocky statue. And I don't remember the whole story about why that statue is there, but it's the same one that's over at the Art Museum at the top of the stairs. Reason why those stairs are called the Rocky Stairs. And I thought, oh, this is cool. I'm going to take a picture with me and the Rocky statue. So I go over and I'm starting to set up. And there's a guy, he drives one of those. It's not a golf cart, but it's actually a longer people. It's almost like it's got like 2 benches. They're back to back. So you can fit probably 4 to 6 people in this little transport. And I'm sure it helps folks get to their gate, get from their gate, whatever. And he sees me setting up to take a selfie, and he offers to help. Now, I have to tell you, when you have the Ray-Ban Meta glasses on, it's easy to hear the different commands, whether it'll say face centered, face near right edge, face near top, whatever the case may be. And that's how I know that I'm centering the camera of my phone in front of me. And it makes it so easy to take a blind selfie when I've got that on, or if I've got AirPods in or earbuds in, or what the story is. But he saw me setting up to take this picture, and he comes over to me. He said, hey, would you like me to take your picture? And he took a bunch of pictures. It was awesome. I don't have any idea what this guy's name was. I just know he drove one of those carts that helps folks get to or from the gate. And I really appreciate it. If you follow me on Instagram at David Benj, like on all the other socials, you'll see that image. And I'll put it up here as well. But in fact, I'll put some of the others up as well. So I did that. I felt pretty happy about that. And I started to walk back. And again, I'm walking past the gate and I say, "Hey, Meta, what's in front of me?" Knowing that there's a sign for the gate above. And somebody again said, "Pardon me?" And I said, No, I'm talking to my glasses, just trying to find out what gate this is. And the guy tells me that it was gate 13. And I thought, okay, so that's not what I want. So I keep going, and then I go back down the first concourse where I know my gate was, and I see the kiosk that I had already walked past. And I thought, when Liz and I were going somewhere, I don't remember if it was New Orleans, Las Vegas, wherever we were going, I remember we bought pretzels from something that was similar to this. So I walked over there after I asked what was in front of me, and those two girls said, "No, we're behind you." But I walked over there and I said to the lady, I said, "Do you sell soft pretzels?" She said, "Yes, I have two different kinds. I have braids or pretzels." And of course, I always love the braids over the pretzels, more doughy, just exactly what I want. Plenty of salt to try and so I don't have to get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the flight. Perfect. I buy the soft pretzel, or actually the pretzel braid in this case, $3.50. With, again, another thing that I love is Apple Pay, because I don't have to dig for my card. I just pull out my phone, double tap, look at my face, boom, done. On my way back to the gate, pretzel in hand, and now I'm just walking around by the gate, so I get some steps in, and I'm sure people are wondering, what is this guy doing? Walking around back and forth. It was around a 50-step round trip, give or take. And I knew where the gate was at this point. I knew it's, for whatever reason, both flights going to Orlando, coming back from Orlando, both flights were at the end of the concourse, so that there's a cluster of gates. In Orlando, they were separated a little bit, but in Philadelphia, they were almost right next to one another. 1, 2, and 3, or 4, maybe there were down there, but they were very close together. But I knew which one I needed to be near. And after I started walking back and forth, trying to get the steps in before I'm going to sit on the plane for a couple of hours, I stopped walking and stayed fairly close to the gate because I wanted folks to see me, hopefully saying, "Okay, sir, you can come on and get on the plane." And that's pretty much exactly what happened. Some guy came over to me and he took me over to the gate, and I showed the lady my boarding pass on my phone, and I got on the plane. I didn't have a paper boarding pass. There's no need for it. I have it on my phone. I had it in my Apple Wallet. Again, another great thing. I don't have to keep track of some other paper that I'm pulling 7 pieces of paper out of my pocket wondering if this is the right thing. And that happened to me at some point, I think coming back from New Orleans last year. The luggage machine gave me 2 things. One was my receipt for my luggage, and one was my boarding pass. I don't know why they decided to give me the boarding pass again, because I had it on my phone, but whatever. So I was just amazed that it helped me. I thought at some point, I'm not going to have cell service. So, of course, when you don't have any kind of data, any kind of connection, you have no data and the glasses don't work. And that only happened one time, and that was when I was deep in the exhibit hall at Podfest. But for the most part, they worked all through the hotel, all through both airports. And when we got on the plane, I took them off because I wanted them to charge. I usually do like to listen to music with them. Again, sound is incredible with them, but I didn't want to run them down and then not have them to get out of the Orlando airport. And I started talking. I was in the B seat, so I had a lady to my left and a lady to my right. The lady in seat A was from the Orlando area, and we were talking about the glasses a little bit. We were talking about the airport, and she actually works for Hyatt Hotels, and she was telling me the hotel that she works for is in Jacksonville. She was talking about ACB, that is another blind organization. They are going back to her hotel in Jacksonville this summer for their conference. And it usually runs around the same time as the NFB conference. This year, the NFB conference is going to be in Austin, Texas, which I'm really looking forward to. But we talked a little bit. The lady to my right was going to watch her daughter compete in I think it was cheerleading, I think she said, competition. And that was at someplace on one of the Disney properties. I want to say ESPN or something like that. I'm not sure, but it was somewhere down there. And we were all talking about the weather and how nice it was going to be. And then there was a freeze warning for a couple of nights from the time we were traveling. And I always am a little hesitant to get off the plane until after everybody gets off because I've got to grab my bag. I don't want to hit anybody. I'm not sure if somebody's close, if I'm going to whack them in the head. But there was a gap. I was able to grab my bag fairly easily and then get off the plane and just basically follow the masses with putting the glasses back on at this point, following everybody off the plane, and then every so often saying, "Hey, Meadow, what's in front of me?" And it would read a sign. If I noticed a sign, I would say that, and just to make sure I was going the right way. And I know if I heard baggage claim or ground transportation, I was good to go. Usually they go hand in hand. And if you've ever been to the Orlando airport, you have to go from the terminal to one of those. It's kind of like a tram or a monorail that goes from the terminal to the main part of the hotel, main part of the airport. And that's where you get your luggage. That's where baggage claim is, ground transportation and whatnot. When I got into the area that I needed to be, I could have stayed up top and ordered a Lyft or an Uber, but I know that there's taxis there. It's much easier for me if I just jump in a taxi. It's a couple of bucks more. In this case, going back to the airport from the hotel, it was around 60% of what it cost me to get from the airport to the hotel. So sometimes I guess more than a couple of bucks, but I didn't have to wait. I walked downstairs. I found the doors. The lady asked me, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Taxis are right out here, right?" And she said, "Yes, go out and to your right." I said, "Thank you." I went out and to my right. I found the taxi stand, got in a cab, went to the hotel from the airport. Bing, bang, boom, no issues. I was able to check in, no problem. I used the glasses to help me find my room, at least get to the right area. And as I got closer, I would go up to the door. And this hotel, the Renaissance at SeaWorld, is a great place because it has the room number in a nice big bold font. It has the room number below it embossed so I could feel it. And then, of course, it has it in Braille. I don't know Braille, but I can tell the embossed numbers that I can feel that. My room was 3020, by the way, which I was a little confused. I was only on the 3rd floor, not the 30th floor. Once I got situated and got a little unpacked, I wanted to go down and take a look around the hotel and look specifically at where everything was going to be for Podfest. It was the same hotel as last year, but it was on the other side of the hotel. It was different rooms, different hallway, and things like that. This one was on the ocean side. There's no ocean in Orlando, by the way, but it was the ocean side of the hotel. So I went down and I started to look around, and I walked down one of the hallways off of the main hallway where I saw the different rooms. They have a great app that they use. It's pronounced 8 different ways by everybody at the event. VoiceOver says it one way and everybody else says it 10 different ways. But it's HOVA, as I call it, or WHOVA. Mostly accessible. Not 100%, but close enough for me. The only issue I was having was trying to listen to the exhibit hall area. It always didn't say who the vendor was at the booth. It might talk about what they do, but it didn't necessarily tell me, oh, it's Libsyn, or it's Blueberry, or it's this, or it's that. So, and I wasn't interested too much in the exhibit hall because I knew there weren't any equipment folks there, like cameras, mics, things like that. The first Podfest I went to, somebody that I listened to that has a couple of podcasts, one called the Solopreneur Hour, his name is Michael O'Neill. he took me over to a vendor that had mics and things like that and said, "Oh, you should try this one or try this one." And it was very helpful that he took a minute to do that. And I actually talked to him. He was at this one, and I talked to him about the camera. And he recommended, instead of using the Sony ZV-E10, which is the one that's not working at the moment because it lost power, so it reset. Jane is home, so she's going to help me redo it. But I'm also going to get a UPS so that it doesn't lose power, and that will be helpful. And then I don't have to spend a couple $100 extra more for the Canon R50, which both he, Michael O'Neill, and this other guy recommended. So I walk down the hallway that I was in front of, and I see Ocean 3, Ocean 4, and I get a feel for the different where they are. And most of the things that I wanted to go to were in Ocean 4, Ocean 10, and I think there was a couple in Ocean 12. A couple days later, I was in Ocean's 11. Oh, I'm sorry, not Ocean's 11, Ocean 11. For the most part, that's where most things were. The main ballroom for the event was Ocean 1 and 2. Or maybe it was Oceans. I'm not sure, but it was 1 and 2. That's where the big stage was. That's where we had I forget what they call it. It's basically a meet and greet that you sit at a table, you talk about, you have 2 minutes to talk about your podcast, who you are, where you're from, and so forth. You get to meet a lot of cool people that way. I sat next to Dave Jackson, who is a podcast god. If he's been podcasting since 2005 and has helped a lot of folks start podcasts. He's in the Podcast Hall of Fame and so forth and so on. But I got to sit next to him. I didn't even know it was him until someone else said something about him at our table. And I'm like, oh my God, I've been sitting here talking to Dave Jackson this whole time. I didn't even know. And he was a little flustered because he had just been sued. But that main room, and so basically you sit at that table, and then after everybody goes, after however long that takes, then you go to another table and you meet a whole bunch of new people, and then you go to another table and you meet a whole bunch of new people. Just so happens that 2 of the 4 tables that I went to, I was sitting at the first table. Dave Jackson was on my left, and this guy named Mike was on my right. He was from the Philadelphia area, and I think he said his in-laws live in or near Swarthmore, which was kind of funny. I went to another table. There was a guy from Bucks County, just very cool. And you meet a lot of cool people. And then, of course, when you are going into these different sessions, you run into them again and they'll say hello and they know who you are. Of course, I can't tell who they are, but a lot of times folks will come up to me. And that makes it easy when they know who you are, because you've just sat over the course of an hour or 2 of meeting. I don't know, there's 8 people or so at a table. And so roughly you meet about 30 people. And again, you meet super high-end folks like Dave Jackson and just other people like myself that have podcasts. One of the cool things, the last table I was at, I met someone named Jerry Williams, and she was a former FBI agent based for most of her career in Philadelphia. And after she left and retired from the FBI, she actually worked for SEPTA. And I vaguely remembered her during the SEPTA strikes, of course, being on camera talking about, I think she said she was in the marketing department. But so I got to meet her, and her podcast actually sounded cool. It's about cold case files, and she would talk to other retired FBI agents about them, about different cases. So where you go from table to table, the meet and greet, that's at the end of the first day. So that's Thursday. And there are sessions during the day as well, but they're not the bigger sessions that happen starting Friday after the keynote. This year's keynote speaker was Pat Flynn. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to be there. He had some family illness and had to stick around his house. So he came in virtually and addressed us. And again, still very cool. And you go to all the different sessions. Basically, with Podfest, there are 5 or 6 tracks. So at each time, there is something in growth and something in monetization, something in video, something in AI, something in beginner. And you kind of have to pick and choose. Oh, I'd like to go to this one at 10 and this one at 10. Okay, which one which one am I gonna do? Because you can only be one place at one time. So there were there were a few times, and again, the Whova app is awesome for that because you can put all of them in and then decide which one you wanna go to when it comes that time. I primarily, not all of the time, but primarily did video and AI. Now, I did do a couple. There was one lady who talked all about Pinterest and how great it is to drive traffic to your podcast. So I'm going to start implementing that. I actually talked to one of the vendors in the exhibit hall was had a VA service. So I'll probably connect with them. They didn't require a lot of hours per week, basically 10 hours per week. So not very expensive. So I'll have someone do that and maybe some more. I would love to post more on Instagram. It's just difficult a lot of times if I try to do it accessibly. Is that a word? I'm not even sure. There is an accessibility feature that allows you to add alternative text on Instagram, but you kind of have to go back and forth turning voiceover off and on to get it to work right. So if you go to my Instagram page, you'll see that I just put the photo descriptions now right in the caption because it's just easier that way, and then people don't have to guess, and you don't have to worry that it's got a description or not. But the alt tags usually, if you can get it to work, it's great. But again, like I said, it's not always, it's almost like a combination, a tricky combination where you got to do this, turn voiceover off, do that, turn voiceover back on so you can feel where the next thing is you have to go to. And it's just a whole thing that is just easier to, like I said, add it right in the description. But so many great things. And the AI was a huge component. And there were so many good things that I learned there. I just started to use Manus, which Meta bought a couple of weeks before Podfest for a couple $1 billion. And now the person that really loved Manus, and I saw a couple of his sessions, I tried it a couple of times so far, and I couldn't get it to really do, it was doing the same nonsense that Chat GPT was doing. Basically, here's what I wanted to do. I needed to make a postcard for the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania State Convention in Hershey coming up in November. I know it's a distance away, but we needed a save the date postcard that we could both send out and hand out at some events we have coming up in March. And I really wanted to get that done. I was just in Washington this past week and needed to get that done so that when we got back, Michelle, who lives in State College, could send it to the printer. We use a printer in State College, and the guy is great. He gives us great prices, and it just works out well and better than anyone that I found in the Delaware County area. There is somebody that we sometimes use up in Montgomery County, but this guy in State College really has come through for us a few different times with a few different things that we've printed, both postcards and a couple other things. So I was trying to get the graphic to be a calendar of November with the dates 5, 6, 7, 8 all circled in one red circle. And you would not believe what I got using all of them, ChatGPT and Manus. ChatGPT gave me a calendar. So I didn't just grab a calendar and have it do it. I asked it to create the calendar and then circle 5, 6, 7, and 8. Both ChatGPT and Manus gave November 4th, November 4th, November 5th, November 5th, November 6th, November 7th, November 7th, November 8th, November 8th. It was mind-boggling how both of them did the same thing. It was just crazy. So finally, I grabbed a graphic of a November calendar, November 2026 calendar. I did this in Canva. I grabbed this calendar. I then found a red, kind of looks like if you were to take a red Sharpie and circle something on the calendar. Looked like that. Red circle that I then and duplicated and put it one over the 5, one over the 6, one over the 7, and one over the 8. And boom, I was done. I did it faster than it took me to ask ChatGPT and Manus to do. And I was a little disappointed, I have to say, because this one guy, I went to several of his sessions, was just so thrilled with Manus, but it failed me, as did ChatGPT. But a lot of AI sessions, the video sessions, it was one of the last sessions I went to. There was an editing track. One or 2 days there was an editing track, which I always like going to. I saw a couple of cool things there, but the last day of sessions, which was Saturday, and again, it might have been it might have been the last session that I went to, was this guy, and I can't remember his name. I want to say it was Daniel. He talked about his workflow and he gave some prompts to help using with ChatGPT to help either create stuff, show notes, whatever the case may be. And I have to tell you, I usually grab my transcript, take it into ChatGPT, ask it to give me a summary. But he's got a better prompt that I'm going to start using, probably not for this episode because I haven't downloaded and grabbed them all yet. But his workflow kind of was like my workflow. I felt like I was validated by the way this guy was. And this guy does this as a service for clients. And he basically edits the podcast using Descript, which is what I use. And I'm also affiliate, and you'll see the link in the show notes or the description of the video. And once it's edited in Descript, now in this case, to add the B-roll, I'm going to go into CapCut so I can add the B-roll where you see me walking around the hotel and you can see all the other things, any images and things like that I may be talking about. It's just easier for me to use than doing it in Descript. So 9 times out of 10, before I go into CapCut, I will take the edited version of the bulk of the audio and take it over into Auphonic, which I'm also an affiliate of, and I will have a link in the description or the show notes. And that will clean up the audio. It makes the audio sound great. And it has, on occasion, taken out some things that I wish it would have left. But it basically leaves just the speech and just music, if you've got music in there. Now, because I take it in before I do my final outcome with the intro and the outro, not that there's music in that, but it's ready to go once I add the intro and outro in CapCut and I add the B-roll, which of course the B-roll and the other clips, usually you're not hearing any audio from it. If you're hearing audio, I will also, before I use it in CapCut, I will put it through Auphonic, but it just cleans up the audio so well. And I think I mentioned this before. My friend Brian had sent me an interview he and Ed Plumacher did with Mike Buckley from Be My Eyes. And they did it, I think they did it at CSUN, but they were sitting on a deck on a really windy day. And so the audio was terrible. And it made it sound like they were in a studio. It came out so well, I was shocked by how great it was. So that's the way Podfest goes. And then on the last day, there's a party, and I stayed a little bit for that. I wasn't too excited to be there, and I'll talk about that in probably the next episode of what went on. But that's Podfest. It's a lot of fun. You learn a lot of stuff. It's kind of like a refresher on what you're doing and what you can do more to help grow your podcast, grow everything, get more viewers on YouTube, whatever the case may be, as well as all these cool AI things that I learned about. And there's so many more things that I even haven't scratched the surface of since I came back from that, which I really look forward to getting into. But again, finished up at the hotel. So Sunday, I had an early flight. I didn't get to do any Podfest stuff on Sunday. Sunday, they do this cool thing at the end of Podfest. I forget what they call it, gratitude, I think. And what it is, people go up on stage, you have a minute or two, and you talk about what you're grateful for from the conference and if people have helped you or what the case may be. So it was just a great time, and I learned so much. Now, last year and this year, I bought the videos of all the sessions. So I knew that if I didn't go to the session in person, I knew that I was going to have it on video and could go over it later. But the cool thing is, I'll have the videos once they come out in a week or two that I can go back and rewatch the lady with the Pinterest thing, and I can rewatch. I missed the beginning of one of the editing things that um, a guy was doing. He uses Descript and DaVinci Resolve to edit, and I would love to use DaVinci Resolve, but the learning curve, it's a little bit more difficult to see for me, and I just have to get used to it. CapCut is very easy, and I really should learn it better because I'm coming up. I actually pay for CapCut. There's a free version and a paid version, and I want to say I paid $90. It's $90 a year or $100 a year. I don't remember, but I'd love to switch off of that and use DaVinci. DaVinci is a more professional editing suite than CapCut. So his thing was good, but I missed the beginning. His session, I missed the beginning, so I'll go back and I'll watch that. And it's just again, you just learn a lot of things and talk to a lot of people. I was at one session that had basically an all-star panel. It was Michael O'Neill, John Lee Dumas, Joel Comm, and a guy who is a lawyer. His name is Lou. I can't remember his last name. He he sold his house and moved to the Orlando area because he loves Disney. And his podcast is all about Disney. I don't remember his last name, but it was awesome. And people were just asking questions and they were giving their opinions. Among them, I mean, John Lee Dumas has, I forget how many downloads, hundreds of millions of downloads. Michael O'Neill has a ton of downloads, and Joel Comm has several different podcasts that have a lot of downloads. So, and of course, the Disney one, who knows how many downloads, but it was just awesome. But this girl was asking a question, and she talked about her show, but she never mentioned the title. So I kind of hung around after, and I went over to her and I started talking to her, and she had a French accent. And we were talking. She says, "Oh, I'm from Birmingham." I said, "Yeah, I could tell by that accent." And she said, "She said I'm actually French Canadian." I said, "No, I was kidding. I knew it was. I thought it was French. I didn't realize it was French Canadian." And so we talked for a little bit, and she told me about her podcast, which I'll put a link in the description and show notes because it was something that I was interested in about learning languages. It's all about languages and other cultures and traveling and things like that. So I've already listened to one of her episodes. It was about older folks learning languages and how you can do that. And I really liked it actually. And it has to do with travel. I love any of the travel stuff, especially if we're talking Portugal, Spain, France, Italy. I am in. And, obviously, if you move to one of those places, you've got to learn to speak like the locals. You can do stuff. I talked to her and I met her. I met, again, some of the folks along the way that I met that first night with the meet and greets at the different tables. So I got to talk to them again. And it's just nice. You start to meet all these folks. And then each year when you go back, sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. But it is just a nice time, and you learn, like I said, you learn a lot of things. And so what I started to mention earlier, so I got the videos, and when you buy the videos early on, and I bought them immediately once they started selling them, because that's when they're the lowest price, you also get a ticket to the following year's conference. So I'm already booked for next year, and it's going to be at the Renaissance at SeaWorld around the same week next year. It's the week that goes into Martin Luther King Jr. Day, that Monday, but it only goes Thursday to Sunday of that weekend. So I came home and got home, quickly did a Federation Focus, which I had done on my GoPro in Orlando, which I really wanted to use, but I couldn't get the footage off of my camera. for whatever reason, it wasn't uploading to the cloud. Usually when you plug it in, it uploads to your library at GoPro. It didn't do that. So I had to reshoot it really quick the day I got home, and I was a little worried because if there was inclement weather, if my flight was delayed, fortunately, the snow didn't come till the following Sunday. But that was Podfest, and again, I was just stunned at how the glasses helped me get all around both airports, leaving the hotel and going back to the airport. I was standing out in front waiting for my lift, and a guy comes up to me and starts talking to me, and he notices that I have them on. He says, "Oh, you have the Meta Ray-Bans on?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "How do you like them?" I said, "They, for me, are a game changer because they help me get through the airport." And he's like, "How?" I said, "Because I can't see signs. I can't read the signs. So I just am constantly saying, 'Hey, Meta, what's in front of me?' And it'll tell me, this is what you're in front of. This is, might say what gate it is." And of course, the cool things with the Ray-Ban Metas, once it tells you something, you can ask the follow-up questions. So you're not just left to wonder, hey, does that mean this or does that mean that? You can ask the question. So I was just shocked. I've talked earlier in other episodes where I was walking down Market Street in Philadelphia and I asked what the address was of that building, and it said that building isn't wearing a dress. So it just makes life a lot easier than having to go up to a whole bunch of people. Hey, can you tell me what that is? Can you tell me where this is? And things like that. Now, I will say, once I got to the gate in Orlando when I was coming home, I knew I needed something. So I started to look around the concourse that I was in, and I was standing in front of this one place and I was asking, "Hey, Meta, what's in front of me?" And it was something, it was like called Cubano or something like that. And a guy comes up, he said, "Hey, can I help you out?" And I said, "Yeah, is this do they just sell sandwiches or are there snacks here?" Hoping, again, I knew they weren't going to have soft pretzels, but maybe they'd have a bag of hard pretzels, just nothing with any kind of, just salt. I basically just wanted salt and something to fill my belly. And sure enough, they had a bag of pretzels and the guy grabbed them for me and then told me to go the wrong way in the line and apologized. And then I went the right way in the line and he was behind me. He said, "Yeah," he said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to Philly. How about you?" He said, "Oh, I'm going to Omaha, but our flight was delayed until 6. Now, it was like 10 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock in the morning. And I'm thinking, this guy is here with little kids and he's going to be in the airport until 6. And who knows if it even got out of there at that point. But I thanked him for his help. Same thing goes when I was hanging around the gate. I waited. And at this point, there's usually a few people at the desk. One's at the desk and then there's one that's, checking the boarding passes. It was Rebecca and only Rebecca. And she made it well known that she was the only one dealing with the gate. So if somebody came up and had a question, they had to see her. If you wanted to get on the plane, she had to scan your boarding pass. So she did everything, worked out okay, got on the plane, no issue. And it was pretty uneventful. Same thing goes on the way home. The first flight attendant introduced herself. Her name was Michelle. She then introduced me to Kate. Kate was right across. I actually was right across the aisle from the bathroom, which, again, fortunately I didn't have to use because who wants to feel around inside of there? But she was also, the jump seat that she sat in was right next to the bathroom, right behind the bathroom. And there was a gap, which I didn't realize because they're serving the drinks. And I tell Kate that I want a water. The guy next to me says whatever he wants. The girl or guy next to him says whatever she wants. As soon as she asks what we want, he takes his laptop out and puts it on his tray table. I'm thinking, this lady's going to pass me some water and it's going to come right over your laptop. And I was paranoid because, again, my hands aren't the greatest. But fortunately, when Kate came back to me, she actually forgot what I wanted. She walked behind me because there evidently, I guess that was the emergency row, and she handed it to me over my shoulder. So I just grabbed it from her like this with my hands over my left shoulder. And then I brought it in front of me, kind of like an over-the-shoulder catch in football or baseball, I guess, too. Very uneventful flight home. Got off the plane, again, followed the folks with the glasses on, followed the folks, and just asked. And, I also listen. You can kind of hear when people are turning off to one of those concourse areas. But I kept, once you're in the straightaway of the terminal, you just keep going straight, and then you find your way to where you start reading the signs for baggage claim and ground transportation. I did that, went to a taxi, and got in the car and came home. Bing, bang, boom. So it was a very, very good time in Orlando. Learned a lot of stuff. I can't wait to go back next year. And again, I was just stunned at how well the Ray-Ban Metas performed, because usually there are gaps and issues along the way. Now, I can say this. One thing that I don't like, and there are times that I don't like to wear them because I'll get a notification and then you hear it through the glasses. And if you're talking to someone, it's distracting. So if I'm talking to someone, I don't leave them on because I don't want to hear that in my ear while I'm trying to have a conversation. It just makes it difficult. But again, flawless in Orlando. I was just so happy how great they were. And at this point, if you don't have them, go out and buy them. I'll have a link to the ones that I have. Actually, I may have a link to the newer version that have a longer recording time and probably a little bit better with everything. But check them out. I'm still looking at getting the Meta displays. However, I have ordered the Rocket styles. Now, they haven't shipped yet. The reason I ordered those, they're AI glasses too. I have to tell you, I was very excited for them, and then I ordered them. They were about $400. But I'm not as excited for them. Because they're shipping from China, and I have no doubt that the Ray-Ban Metas are made in China. But I ordered them, I don't know, about 10 days ago now. I still don't have them. And I'm just concerned about the build. The reason I am really excited for them is because they are supposed to shoot in 4K. So when you see the video that I've shot here with the Ray-Ban Metas, you'll notice that it's just vertical, and that's why it's not taking up the whole screen. When I have the others with the 4K, it will take up the whole screen, and it will be great B-roll. So we'll see how great they are once I get them, if I ever get them. Again, I'll wait 30 days. If I don't have anything in 30 days, I'll cancel them and get my money back and be sad, because I really want something that shoots 4K that I could wear on my face. Again, but really, really excited how the Ray-Ban Metas did on this trip. So I'm looking forward. I'm going to Vegas at the end of February. I'll try them again, going again on my own. So it'll be helpful as I get through a new hotel. I haven't booked it yet. A different airport in Vegas, which is a little bit difficult to me. The last time I was in Vegas on my own, I had some trouble. It didn't help that they changed the gate for my flight about 5 times in the 2 hours that I was there. But I'm hopeful they are as helpful. I'm hopeful they are as helpful as they were going to Orlando. That is it for this episode of iCantCU. Remember, connect with me on social media at DavidBenj, DavidBenj, Facebook, Instagram, Threads. What else do we have? LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great place to connect. I do post a lot there, mostly of all the different things that I create, whether it's this podcast, whether it's White Canes Connect, whether it's Federation Focus, or any other NFB-related things. You'll see them all at LinkedIn, and I guess for that matter, too, on Facebook. And you can check me out on Facebook as well, because that's where I post that stuff, too, as well as the pictures like the Rocky, me and Rocky statue. But I do appreciate it, and I'd love to hear from you. So reach out if you have any questions, comments, anything like that. iCantCUpodcast@gmail.com. iCantCUpodcast@gmail.com. Better yet, give me a call. 646-926-6350. You've got up to 3 minutes to leave your name and town and whatever your question, comment, idea might be. And I would love to hear from you. Again, 646-926-6350. Give me a buzz. Show notes and more things available over at iCantCU.com/295. It's the low, low price of $295. iCantCU sounds like a whole sentence, but it is only 7 characters long. ICANT, capital C, capital U.com/295. I really do appreciate you joining me for this episode of iCantCU. Be well, stay safe, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Take care.
Thank you for joining David on this episode of I Can't See You. Please subscribe on your favorite platform, like and comment on this episode on YouTube.